What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sports Jedi Network, where everyone knows the news, all the sad passing. The Immortal Hulk Hogan passed away here early this morning as I silence all the noise here. The news came out around noon, 11 o'clock. I was at work listening. I was listening funny. I was listening to Natalia Neidhart on Busted Open. Chef Dan texts me that Hulk Hogan passed, and they break for a commercial. The news comes out of TMZ reporting that 71-year-old Hulk Hogan, known as Terry Gene Bollea, passes away. And I want to remember Hulk Hogan. I'm not here to remember Terry Bollea because I never met Terry Bollea. I don't know who Terry Bollea is. I'm going to go on my memories. The wrestling icon that known as Hulk Hogan, the one that's brought great childhood memories to myself, memories that I always talked about that I shared with my grandfather. Watching Hogan, and Hogan was his guy. Hulk Hogan was his guy. Hulk Hogan, as I wear my Hulkamaniac shirt, had the honor and privilege to get into wrestling. From when he beats the Iron Sheik at Madison Square Garden, from there on, Hulkamania lives. Hulkamania was born, the music that goes with Hulk Hogan, from the Eye of the Tiger, the great I Am American Hero, where Jimi Hendrix, Voodoo Child, iconic. Wrestling isn't wrestling without Hulk Hogan. They wouldn't be podcasters talking about professional wrestling to the degree where they're making money, where they're at home, complaining about creative. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan getting the WWE along with Vince McMahon out into the mainstream. For those that want to say they're the best of the best and all they do is complain about the product being boring, you got Hulk Hogan to think about it, like it or not. We're not talking about Terry Bollea. I don't know what Terry Bollea, I don't know him. Maybe, we heard some nasty things later in his career, what he said in the video and all that stuff. It shows us that everyone's human. Never meet your heroes. But I want to talk about the man when the music hit and he came out of the gorilla position into the square circle until he got the 1, 2, 3. That's who I want to talk about, is Hulk Hogan. What he meant. For me, watching him as a kid, seeing him come, start hulking up, the shaking of the head, the finger pointing, the big boot, the leg drop, the ripping of the shirt before, the looking into the heavens and he's going to body slam the world up on his shoulders, and damn, that was Hulk Hogan. That entertainment factor of sports entertainment. As I say, what's going on to everyone in the chat. I see you guys in the chat. I appreciate everyone in the chat, from Chris, Dave, of course, and Chris the Flash. Thank you guys for joining them. And we're in the remembrance of Hulk Hogan, the performer, the wrestling performer. Seeing, without Hulk Hogan's contribution to the business, there won't be a WrestleMania. There won't be a SummerSlam. I had the privilege of being at the very first SummerSlam at Madison Square Garden. Be able to see Hulk Hogan many times with either the Mega Powers or teaming up with Brutus Briefcase against Zeus, if you remember that, and $1 Million Man. There were so many good moments that the Hulkster brought to us. Many WrestleMania moments, feel good moments. I remember, that WrestleMania 1 with Mr. T, alongside with Jimmy Snuka. Iconic moments, his rivalry with Roddy Piper, his rivalry with Paul Orndorff, his rivalry, of course, the one when you see the WWE, the way it starts, when he's body slamming Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. That was this great iconic moment, because even at that moment, you're at least for me, I'm watching wrestling in the eyes of an innocent child. And when I see that image, it takes me back as that innocent child when Hulk Hogan, can he do it? And buying in, into the magic that is professional wrestling, the art that's professional wrestling. That's what I'm here for. That's the memories I want to remember Hulk Hogan for. We weren't in those locker rooms, in the world of all that politicking. and all that conspiracy of the union, non-union, we weren't there. Again, I want to talk about Hulk Hogan when he comes out of that curtain, when he comes out to make the walkway down, when it comes crashing down and he's ripping his shirt, and he's asking the crowd, and he's putting his hand to his ears, and he's posing and flexing, and darn it, I bought in as an innocent child the largest arms in the world. I was uber entertained. You know, so upset when he got bamboozled by the $1 million Man, and Andre the Giants and the fake referee, of course, that angle with the Earl and David Hebner. Those are great memories at that time as a child. That's what wrestling brings, that magic, that aura, that memory. And Hogan was a huge part of that. Whether it's wrestling Ultimate Warrior, when you had the two biggest baby faces in Skydome for WrestleMania 8 going at it, and you're one, who is he passing the torch? And of course, and then his resurgence, taking the American flag against Sergeant Slaughter and General Agnat and Iron Sheik, those rivalries. That's what Hulk Hogan. Listen, the man outside of the ring had issues, had problems. He might have had a belief system that I think 90% of us Americans didn't agree with, maybe. But we're not here to talk about that. That's him now. He's going to be in front of the creator and the maker, and he's going to have to talk. He's going to have to be held accountable for his words outside of wrestling. But I'm talking about the wrestling, the impact that Hulk Hogan did, not only for WWF, WWE, AWA, NWA, WCW, where, listen, if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan going over to WCW, we might not even get an attitude era. Maybe wrestling would have gone mainstream and died away in the 90s. It might have died away because WWE was about to close its doors. If you look at their history, he goes to WCW, the NWO forms. It changes the trajectory of the WWE going into that attitude era, and look where we are now. WWE, one of the most sold for what, $10 billion, guys. All that, and there's others involved in the equation, but Hogan was a big part of it. Regardless if you like the guy or don't, it's stunning. Regardless if you like the guy or not, he wasn't my neighbor. We didn't break bread. Our kids did not go to school together. But he entertained us. It's the same thing as a movie actor or a comedian, or, they're there to entertain you. I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't agree with maybe Richard Pryor's thought of life or his lifestyle. But he's one of the most funniest comedians ever because he entertained you. Once those lights went on, and he was there to tell jokes. I say that with Hulk Hogan. Once he went through the curtain, he was there to entertain us. The other stuff, there isn't a perfect person walking this earth. But for Hogan, his legacy is going to live on. He's going to be, and this is something, it's funny because I went on a rant when Cody won the world title. I wanted Roman to break Hulk Hogan's record. And I still stand by it. I wanted him to beat the third, shattered Hulk Hogan's for the longest post-WrestleMania title run. And that's never going to be broken. I don't believe that. I think Hulk Hogan's record is going to live on forever. Now and maybe that's something, it's funny how we see it now. But now you could say Hogan's the longest reigning champion after post-WrestleMania ever. I don't think the wrestling community, the wrestling world, has the patience to wait for that type of run that Roman went or beyond to surpass Hulk Hogan's title run. And that's funny. It's weird and it's funny at the same time that Hulkamania will still live in the record books of wrestling. Listen, the guy might not have been the most technical wrestler. To me, the greatest technical wrestler of all time. You could go with Ric Flair. But the greatest entertainer, superstar, megastar in professional wrestling is Hulk Hogan. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. I think Hogan, what the larger than life persona took, went along with Vince McMahon's creativity, and they just transcended to something different that it is now. They were ahead of their time, regardless of the fact if you like them or not. For Hogan, he leaves a legacy. He leaves a legacy in WWE. He's gonna have a void with his family, of course, his son Nick, his daughter as well, his I guess widow wife, his family and friends. Um, it's funny. It's 1 minute you're here, the next the other. I know he was battling some issues there with a surgery, complications of a surgery, but hopefully, he professed that he had this is Terry Bollea now we're talking about. He professed that he was saved. We don't know any answers. He found faith, and if that's the case, that's between him and the maker. But the Hulk Hogan that we're talking about here, the wrestler, is going to be missed. I'm pretty sure. I wonder how TNA Impact tonight, a big part of TNA Impact in 2010, going over there where maybe TNA folds under if Hogan doesn't go. Despite the fact that that run in TNA wasn't the greatest, but just him getting there and drawing the marquee names to TNA helped out as well. Listen, I've seen Hulk Hogan many a times, and I want to give thanks to my grandfather and my uncle Gilbert, first and foremost, for taking me to Madison Square Garden. I went to countless house shows. Madison Square Garden house shows that used to be given on MSG Network, and Hulk Hogan. Well, beyond that, see Hulk Hogan in a steel cage match. Hogan versus Bad News Brown versus Kang, versus the Big Boss Man, versus Paul Orndorff, the Honking Tonk Man, the One Man Gang, then turned into Akeem versus Earthquake. I've seen so many of the Hulk Hogan house show matches. I think out of all the wrestlers that I think I've seen Hulk Hogan at live the most. I've been because I had that privilege. I was blessed. Those are the childhood memories that Hogan leaves, that impression. The newer generation won't understand it, but that's a childhood of mine that is being put to rest. Time passes by, the memories never fade. So for Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, he's always going to be remembered for his in-ring, the great memories that he brought, at least for this person here. My childhood memories, they were always good. And for Hulk Hogan, thank you for those childhood memories. Thank you for when I think of when I see the gold and red or the yellow and red, I'm always going to remember my childhood. That time when you were slamming Hulk Hogan, how excited I was. And also my grandfather hulking up, play and my grandfather hulking up and getting excited when Hulk Hogan will hulk up. When he was in the chokehold and the arm raised 1 and 2, and in the third he starts shaking, and the shaking of Hulk Hogan and the nodding of the head and the pointing, that my grandfather was a mark at that time, and that's great memory. So with that said, I want to just give my thoughts on Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, the entertainer. To me, great memories. Thank you, Hulk. And of course, I'm always gonna have that engraved in my head. Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. And that's something awesome. And what you're gonna do when the Hulkster runs wild on you. All of that and more. Thank you, Hogan. Thank you for those memories. At least from this fan here, what you gave in the ring, it hasn't gone to waste. It hasn't been in vain, because I am more in love with pro wrestling now than when I was that young child watching it with his grandfather. I have the privilege now to have my sons watching it. Hopefully when they have children with my grandchildren, we'll love to take them to the wrestling events and take them as much as possible so they can enjoy this art that's professional wrestling. That's what wrestling does. It's a generational thing. It's a transition thing. For Hulk Hogan, rest in peace for the Hulkster. And of course, maybe now you have a WrestleMania moment card up in heaven there with Andre and the Macho Man, the Warrior, and Dusty Rhodes, all the greats up there. So wrestling would always be forever. The name Hulk Hogan will be forever. And Godspeed, Hulkster. And this is Sports Jedi Network. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes here to talk about Hulk Hogan. Thank you, guys.